FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
You and I both know a lot of people who worked for Lyndon Johnson. And one thing they often say is the tough thing for them is when someone comes to them and says, I lost my son in Vietnam, why did he die? What would you say for Iraq?
Yeah. It is the hardest thing. I think anyone who's in a position of responsibility when a conflict occurs and you, as Joyce and I would go to the hospitals and meet with the wounded whose lives are changed forever, meet with their families and meet with the families of those who'd been killed, we would think to ourselves when going in, what is it that we could say or do that would help them understand the appreciation that we and America have for the sacrifice, the individual sacrifices and the sacrifices of families as well, because they sacrifice and they serve. And we would come out of those meetings almost invariably inspired, not feeling that we had helped them, but feeling that they had helped us. The pride they have in their service, the cohesion they feel with the units they were in, their desire to get back to their units, you just could not fail to come out of those meetings inspired by the young men and women. The big difference between the Vietnam War and the conflicts today is that thanks to Milton Friedman and Richard Nixon and the Congress, we have an all-volunteer military. Every single one of those people who serve our country served because they wanted to serve. They served because they consciously decided they wanted to raise their hand and go and help protect our country. And that dedication and that patriotism and that pride that they feel is so powerful. Now, how does one answer that? I guess the answer is that they're
And I think what the Johnson people say is they'll push us to tell exactly what the sacrifice is made for. Is that, I mean, does anyone ever do that when you see them?
Oh, sure.
And what do you say? I mean, World War II, I assume, would be, that's not hard. But war like Iraq or Vietnam or something that's not, full throttle, what do you say?
A war that is armies against navies, air forces against air forces, that's clear, that's understandable. It starts and it ends. It ended in World War II on the USS Missouri, the battleship, with a signing ceremony. What we went through in the Cold War was quite different. It was many decades long. It was a ideological competition of ideas.
And there was never going to be a signing ceremony.
And there was never going to be a signing ceremony. What we're in today is much more like that. It is a longer period of time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It is a competition of ideas, but for whatever reason, we are hesitant and not skillful in engaging in the competition of ideas. We recognize that the overwhelming majority of the Muslims on the face of this earth are fine people who have a religion that may be different from Christianity or Judaism or other religions, but they are not radicals, they're not terrorists, they're fine people. And yet there's a small minority of Muslims that have engaged in terrorist acts, that organize to do those things. And we're reluctant as Americans to take up that debate and compete with those ideas. They're not reluctant. They are out recruiting, they are out raising money, they are out organizing, and they are out planning attacks against the nation-state concept because they have a conviction that it is their calling to do that. So the fact that we aren't willing to engage in that debate or not skillful at it or reluctant to do it leaves people with a vagueness as to why people have to do things. The wonderful thing I've found with the men and women in the armed forces is that they are there, whether they're serving in Korea or in Bosnia or in Iraq or Afghanistan. They know what they're doing, they understand it, they're proud of what they're doing, and thanks to modern communications and emails, they're able to communicate with their families, and their families end up having a sense of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And when there's a loss of life, it is heartbreaking. When there's a loss of limb, it's heartbreaking. And yet you talk to those families and you talk to those people, and they don't ask, why was I there? They know why they were there, and they're proud that they were there, and we are a very fortunate country.
That's for sure.